With us, LIS WIEHL. She is a Fox News legal analyst, an instructor of law, a radio personality in her own right, and the author of the new book, Hand of Fate. On behalf of all of us at Embry-Riddle, let's give a warm welcome to LIS WIEHL.
It's great to be here. We're actually doing a radio show.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. With a live audience.
Yeah.
This is pretty exciting.
That's the way it works.
Wow.
First, let's talk about the book, Hand of Fate. LIS WIEHL, I didn't know until the first book that you wrote that you were a novelist as well. And this book has special meaning for me.
Now, why would that be?
Because the talk show host dies.
A radio talk show host.
Yeah. He dies, and in the studio he died in, I worked in a studio just like that. Airtight. And you co-wrote this book with April Henry. Mm-hmm. How did you get linked up with April Henry?
I knew what I wanted to write about, and April's out in Portland, so that was terrific because she's there. She can get the scene of Portland more than I can. I'm from Washington State, but Portland's not my home, it's hers. And I wanted to set something out, not in Washington State and not in New York, where I live now, but in Oregon. And she's great with that. She's also not a lawyer, so if I write things that she says, well, what does that mean? I don't get that. Then I'm thinking, okay, roll it back, explain to people what that means, which is terrific.
This was, I know this book was written partly because of your experiences in radio and as a prosecutor,
right.
But as I saw in an internet interview, you also felt that you could relate to one of the other characters as well, two of the people.
Well, the three characters. Allison is a federal prosecutor, and I was a federal prosecutor, and a lot of the characters and incidents in the book are, let's just say I changed the names to protect the guilty. You know, and it's fiction. Yes, fiction. So, you know, I totally relate with Allison. I'm a third-generation federal prosecutor. The other character, Nicole, is an FBI agent. My father was an FBI agent, so I grew up with a dad who was in the FBI. I worked with female FBI agents when I was a prosecutor. And then Cassidy, of course, is a TV reporter, which is what I do now. So I blend, I guess, all the jobs I couldn't keep, I mean, I don't know, into these three women, and it's so much fun and so liberating to write fiction where you don't have to footnote your navel. I mean, you can actually talk about things and have fun with it and write about things that I think matter to people. And as you say, I did 7 long years with Bill O'Reilly as his co-host on radio, and I now do TV with him every Tuesday. If you watch Is It Legal? Can't shake him, I guess, but whatever. Anyway, for 7 years I was his co-host on radio, and I realized after he gave that up in March of, I guess, a year and a half ago, that I either needed deep psychological help or I should write a book about, you know, offing a radio talk show host. And he helped me write the opening. It was great. He said, well, no, don't kill me this way, kill me that way. You know, he had the whole thing worked out. We had a lot of fun with it.
It was 9 years ago that Bill O'Reilly was right in this very spot doing a town hall here at Embry-Riddle to talk about his book, and it was before he began the radio thing. And I remember him saying to me, you're on the air, at that time I was on 4 hours a day. He said, you're on 4 hours a day, 5 days a week? Who can do that?
He did it. He did it for 7 years. He was on 2 hours with me on radio, and then his the O'Reilly show on TV, three hours a day.
So it's a lot. Now, I know that when we first heard of you, you were in Washington. I think you were still teaching.
I was a professor in the University of Washington Law School, yes.
And then Fox News saw you and...
I had represented the Democrats during the impeachment of President Clinton, and I had done newspaper for the New York Times before that, and then NPR, All Things Considered, doing commentaries for them. And then I represented the Democrats during the impeachment, and MSNBC and Fox and all of them kind of came knocking after that. And I thought with Fox that I could make a difference. And then, of course, when Bill started with the radio, it just made more sense for me and the kids to move to New York, which we did.
We're going to get some substantive stuff here, but I got to ask. You go on and Google LIS WIEHL.
Uh-oh.
There is a thing that comes up.
Don't believe anything. It's the evil twin.
Yeah.
It's not me.
Say, O'Reilly shuts LIS WIEHL microphone
yeah.
off. Did he tell you what, to shut up and just shut the mic off on you, or is that
Did
just...
that a couple of times in our early years, yeah. He would get mad at me and shut the mic off until I told him. Can I relate one story for you? It was we had just gone into radio, it was about 2 years in, I guess, and there was a little girl who went to a doctor, I believe it was at Duke Hospital, and they bungled the case completely. Jessica, I think was her name. They completely bungled the case, they being the doctors. And we talked about it on radio the day after, and Bill said, well, her parents were here illegally, and so she really doesn't have any rights, the parents can't sue. And I said, well, wait a second, just because she's here illegally and the parents are, I guess, here illegally, that doesn't give the doctors a right to bungle her case. Once they take her on, then they've got to treat her properly. And we kind of went back and forth, and he screamed so much he turned off my mic. So the next day, the callers had been calling in after my mic was turned off in the beginning of the next show, and he said on air, he said, well, the callers have called in and we're about 50-50 on who sides with you, Lise, and who sides with me. And I said, well, gee, imagine, we're 50-50. Imagine if you hadn't turned my mic off, where we might be. And that kind of was the end of the mic shutting off, because I said to him, if you turn my mic off, then I've won the argument.